podcast. I am your host, Amelie, and we are going to get started. Today's title is Unlocking Purpose. And I feel really compelled to share this one with everybody. I think this is a big theme for most people in their lives. And I just want to share some tips and maybe a little bit more of, sorry if my music starts playing. I was having a little bit of a Britney video watch. Let me get my notes up here. Okay. So, so Gene Keys is one of the ways that helped me to really navigate my being. And some people can use astrology, and that's fine. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Okay. Some people can use astrology. I mean, Gene Keys and human design are obviously a good couple of different ways that I've used to unlock what my purpose is. And I'm really grateful for the course that I took that opened my eyes to the tools that are available with using Gene Keys. And I think I don't know if it was last week that I talked about it, but it was definitely last week or the week before. I'm still drinking my morning coffee, even though it's 11. And so I'm really grateful in that moment for being able to really lock in different parts of me. So, in unlocking your purpose, I would recommend getting some sort of profile done on you, and that includes, running your birth date, your birthplace, the time you were born. And I do those readings. So if you're watching this and you want to have a reading done by me, I have had much success. I've had good feedback from the people that I've given that to. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me. Hello, Cod. How are you? And if you're kind of feeling, I guess the initial pieces here is if you're feeling lost in life, maybe you're not necessarily lost, but you feel like there's no place for you to go, there's no purpose. Noons, hello. Do you think Brexit was the right decision? Um, I don't know. I live in the United States. I think, I mean, my opinion of politics is, I appreciate you, Cod. My opinions on politics is, I'm pretty like neutral on most politics. It's so quiet in there. Do you have some kids? Yeah, my kids are my child is in school right now. Everybody's at work. Everybody's at school. I'm planting seeds later on today, and then I have dance class. I take ballroom dance classes. So anyhow, I find that if you feel like your purpose isn't being met, like you're not being satisfied in life and the things that you're doing, maybe the lifestyle that you have is not one that you desire. Maybe you want to be in marriage, or maybe you are getting ready to have your kids leave the nest. So I have a 19 and a 12-year-old. So, these things, we have all these pieces that shift our identity of like who we are as a human, and what we are here to do shifts as well. I mean, you've heard of empty nest syndrome, and that is a huge thing, I think, especially right now within my generation, because people within my generation, either you had children when you were very young, like in your early 20s, or in your late teens, and now they're, adults, or they're getting ready to be adults. and get all the way moved out of the house, or you waited until you were in your 30s and you're like, I'm going to start a family, and then now you've got young children and everything like that. I am 41, so very close. So I I see a lot of identity issues within my generation with the people that I'm friends with, of like, they're having like these two different lifestyles, and so it splits the friend group and everything like that. Well, then you must be like my son's age, which is in that young years. I mean, I had children. My first child I had when I was 21. That shifted my identity a lot, and I would have liked to have had a little bit more mentorship in that. So that when I was going through my 20s and then into my 30s, that my purpose was really in line, really in sync with who I was. But because of, the way that I was raised and just kind of the friend groups that I had, I was a little chaotic. And I've talked about that. I think last week I did an, the episode on the father wound. So I'm trying to keep it a little light because that was so heavy for me. Anytime I do any shadow work and I'm teaching on shadowy things, like I have a really hard time. Like for the rest of the week, I get very emotional and very deep because I'm like really diving into some powerful techniques to like help clean that up. So this week I'm trying to keep it a little bit lighter. So with your identity, I feel like that's really connected to your purpose. And so if you're looking to, or you're seeking any mentorship, I'm very good at helping you kind of refocus and point into where you need to be looking and the things that you need to be working on in order to define that purpose, in order to make sure that you're going into those steps. You can message me here on YouTube, or you can send me an email at Soulestic Intelligence, and or I think I have my Facebook link as well if you want to get a hold of there. And then I also have a Buy Me a Coffee, in which I am doing a business launching special of 77 US dollars on the Buy Me a Coffee. And so it's a full hour of whatever you want to talk about, anything that you want to hone in on. And so it's just a one-on-one full hour with me. Okay. But let's get to our topic. So, and these will be helpful for you as well. So you've heard of astrology. So astrology, you've got a couple different, well, there's several different kinds, but the most popular one is a tropical, which is on your birth date. And then you've got the sidereal, which is on your conception date. So it's roughly your conception date. So the tropical is more of your ego, whereas your sidereal is more of who you came to be here. Okay. The the beautiful thing about human design is it takes both of these things into consideration. So both of these things are considered in that whole gambit of astrology. Human design, it takes a little bit more. So it looks at your astrology, but then it also incorporates your gates in your body. And let me see if I can pop mine up here really quick. I'll show you what mine looks like. I happen to be a human design reflector. And so let me show you guys what that looks like. So these are all your energy centers, and any time that these are connected, it lights these up. So people will look much different. So you can see I have a lot of black and red, and then there's some that are both black and red, you can see here, which means I have a lot of energy still in that area. So the gene key 50, the gate 50 here, that one is a very powerful, it's very powerful in my chart in particular because it's my life purpose here. And everybody's is going to be different. And then like nobody is going to be the same. So you're very unique in your energy, you're very unique in your expression. And on a, well, let's get really, really deep. On a celestial aspect, you being born, I I know that our bodies are frequencies, and it's like this musical tonal expression, which is, you know, what human design and Gene Keys really get into is the tone of your frequency, the song that your energy body sings in the universe. And the if you look at the stars, like there's some really good videos. Maybe I'll try and find some and do some videos and post them on the YouTube channel. But if you look at a star, an actual star in like an actual telescope, you can see them, and they have these musical vibrations that are casting back to you. And then even now, like Venus is in retrograde, and Venus is in retrograde quite often, but when Venus is in retrograde, it starts making you look at your relationships. So you might even find yourself having breakups or major fights in your life when those things are in retrograde. Like the expression that they have on our bodies, like we're all tonal. And I do tuning fork sessions as well. So if you're interested in doing a tuning fork session, I've got group and individual sessions if you're interested in that. But tuning fork, so you have your one tuning fork. I had some of them close by. Now they're all far away. So you have your one tuning fork, right? And let's say it's at 128, which is a really nice grounding energy. And then you have another tuning fork. If you vibrate this one tuning fork here and it's sitting next to this one, they're both going to start vibrating because the resonance that's going out, the sound frequency that's going out is going to affect it. It's going to affect it. It's going to resonate with it. So when they're both vibrating together, even though this one wasn't hit, when they're both vibrating together, they're going to resonate. So that's why when you're around the people that you're around, you're resonating that. I've been watching a show called Love is Blind on Netflix. I don't even think I like the show. It's a lot of drama. It feels, I don't want to say it's forced, but it just is interesting to see how the people in the show, they're basically in 6 weeks, they're going from stranger to standing at the altar. Okay, very weird premise. Definitely not something that I would be into, but this is the show, and I'm watching it, just kind of observing from whatever perspective that I'm in. And I'm I see a lot of people. I mean, most of them don't get married. Okay, and it's sometimes it's shocking to see who does and who does not, like, say I do at the altar. I mean, obviously it's a whole crazy premise. Not that it's a terrible thing, but it's just a really crazy premise for a show. And here I am watching it, so I guess they got what they wanted out of me. But there was one girl, and I was resonating with her enough where, like, her backstory and her situation was like, I was crying because, you know, as she's going to the altar, both her parents had died when they were younger, and both of my parents are now dead. And so, like, on that level, I was just really resonating with her. And then I see all of her insecurities are coming out. And she picked this guy that almost poked at all of her insecurities. So even though they never, sorry, spoiler alert, they didn't get married, but they were resonating. I was watching them, they were resonating together. Like, he he was poking at her, and she almost wanted that because she was holding on to these insecurities. Okay, so when I just mentioned that, I'm just mentioning that because we resonate with people. So we draw in. So if you're wanting to change your life and you feel stuck in the relationships that are around you, even if it's family, even if it's friends from like when you were grade school kids or even before then or middle school or whatever, like your connection with people, you're the sum of the five people in your immediate in your immediate field. So if you have somebody that is in your field or even a job that is in your field and you're dissatisfied, that is an indication that there is something within you that you need to look at and change. If you want that change, like maybe you don't want that change, maybe you like to have those, you know, that certain drama and that air and that element in your life, and that's completely fine. But most of us are we're seeking a peaceful life. We're seeking an inner peaceful life. And so in unlocking your purpose and your potential, these are some good tools. So from a that's our expressions. And then on the inside, we also have more expressions. So from a DNA level, you've got a double helix. So one is your mother and then one is your father, and they're intertwined and they've expressed you. So not only are you getting this feedback from the universe of all the celestial bodies that have like created this makeup in astrology or in your human design or even in your G key expression, you also have the DNA expressions from your parents that are interlocked into who you are. And then you pass that down onto your children. And in this, we are all very well connected. And I don't think I mentioned it last week in my podcast, but after after it's been a huge theme right now for me to look into is quantum entanglement. And quantum entanglement is when two particles are separate from each other, but they can sense the other even from a distance. So it could be somebody in the other room, it could be somebody in another city, it could be somebody in another state or even another continent. We all can be really connected and entangled with each other because there is this really nice connected spirit. And I think of the iCloud, where the iCloud is like storing all this information. All technology, in my opinion, so this is my opinion allegedly, is all technology that we have in our life that we're using and that they're discovering and they're wheeling out and we are using. All of this technology is an expression of heaven. So if you think about like the Ethernet, the ether is up in the sky, right? If if you know your science, we there's mention that it's an ether. And I mean, we can go on and on about technology and how it is connected to this like spiritual realm. So it's like this expression of what that spiritual realm is. So that heavenly spiritual realm, it's actually being brought down, and now we're able to have it expressed on earth. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there's definitely there's definitely a drama playing out, but so if you have your DNA and you have these expressions, then you know that there's a code in there that you can unlock, and this code is going to hold what your purpose is. So a lot of us will feel compelled or have this awareness that our lives mean something more than the lives that I mean, we can get up, eat, go to work, go home, go to sleep, and do the cycle over and over again. But if you're wanting to live in your purpose, you're wanting a little bit more than just this mundane survival. Okay? So, what if that DNA is holding that code? And I want to talk about the gene key system. So, I showed you the human design body. And, there's different personalities that are held up in that body. And then I showed you the gates. So those gates are basically that gene key system, and it's 1 through 64. Each one of them holds a frequency and a resonance. And some of them are connected to each other, and some of them, well, they're all kind of connected to each other, but there's different codes that kind of lock them in together as well. The gene key system was developed by a man named Richard Rudd, and it takes this, it takes the human design, and then it takes I Ching, and it kind of matches these things together. And the incredible, beautiful part of this is it also like applies DNA in it as well. So you have DNA rooted in there. You have I Ching. So there's a lot of energy component to this. In Gene Keys, let me pull up a bit here. Let me see if I can find my Gene Key profile. Okay, this one's not mine, but we can look at it. I just want to make sure there's no names on here. Okay. Yeah, okay. So this is a Gene Key profile. And you can see it's, well, maybe you can't see. Let's see. You can see it's got like an outer circle. It's got this triangle here. It's got these bits down here. And each one of those is just your bodily expression. So most of the time when I'm doing my profile lookout, I'm looking at, okay, what numbers are here? What's your life's work? So this person's life work is hitting the 64, which it in its lowest shadow state is confusion. In its next state, it's imagination, and then at the city or the most highly expressed part of it is illumination. It's opening up its expression to the world. It's shining light on something. So you have your life's work, and then the other parts of it are evolution, your purpose. So your purpose is also, I look at both the purpose and I look at that life's work piece. And I kind of pepper in the radiance and the evolution because I just want to see like how are these intertwining together. And in your purpose, so this person's purpose is 26, and so their shadow spot is pride. Their their level is artfulness, and then their city or that highest expression is playful, is invisibility. Sorry. And so when I'm like looking deep down into these, I'm like diving in as much as possible, and I, with the way that my basically my mental penetration is I'm looking for like keywords and themes of what is going on in here. So when I'm looking at your profile, I'm looking to see like, oh, okay, what is your life's work? What is like bringing you meaning? What is your purpose? How can we intertwine these two pieces in there? How do you evolve? What is the way that you're going to evolve? Like this person's city is truth. So inquiry and truth. So them asking and really getting down to the meat of it is going to be their way of finding that answer. And then their radiance, the way that they. So when I think of radiance, and everybody has a radiance, everybody has these things, but when I think of radiance, it's like, how is my light in my body going to shine? Like, how am I going to resonate with others? So I'm looking at that radiance of like, okay, how do they share that purpose? How do they share that life's work and really like penetrate where they want to go and bring in the things that they want? So it also has Venus. So when you're looking at the Venus, you're looking at like their love life. Like how are they, how some people are interested in their love life. So I think a lot of people are. There's It's a multi-billion dollar industry, I'm sure. But you can look at your Venus or your love and see like what kind of expression. So that's one piece of it. And then your pearl, which is like work, your work. How do we really focus in on that work? So I look mostly at the activation piece of it, and and you can also look at that Venus and that pearl part, but I just look at the activation. How are we getting you lit up? How are we getting you excited about your reason for being here? Okay. So, like I said, I focus on the activation sequence of your gene keys because that is really where that purpose and that identity is going to be greatly expressed. And it helps you kind of get on this path. In gene keys, there's so much to it. In human design, there's so much to it. So just take what you can digest and then leave the rest. And I recommend that for anybody. So we looked at that compass, and in the purpose sphere, anybody, like everybody's going to have something that's different. So you're going to have like your purpose, and maybe like as a sixth line, your teacher, and so you're teaching that. And I think theirs was true, not truth, but it was artfulness, and let's see if I still have that Betty up. Artfulness and invisibility. So for me, I would be looking at, okay, let me read all about that gate. Let me see where the gate is. So the gate is like, it could be anywhere on the body. Like for mine, it was in the, let me see if I can find it really quick. That's not mine. Yeah, so mine is in, I think that's in the spleen area. So the spleen is the place for intuition. And I did a tuning fork activation last Friday, and we focus on, in my tuning sessions, I'm focusing on like, okay, let's get grounded. Let's get that root opened up. Let's get that root area opened up and like get really relaxed, get really into the body. And then we kind of work our way up. So we look at the intestines, like how can we get the intestines resonating with it. So I work from the ground up all the way to the head and even into the purpose. So our energy fields go even beyond our bodies. Okay. I feel like I'm all over the place today. So we looked at the activation sequence, and obviously the life's work is at the top, and then your purpose is at the bottom there. So when we look at what your purpose is, I really break that down, and I connect those two pieces because I want to have like this higher meaning as we're looking at the purpose. Like, how are we getting there? That's where the evolution comes in. That's where your radiance comes in. Like, you're taking both the way you grow and the way you shine, and you're incorporating it into that purpose and then into that life's work. We're incorporating all of those pieces together. So, for example, I have like Gene Key 50 is my life's work, but my purpose of getting there is going to be different. I don't think it showed what mine is. But let's say that Gene Key 50 was my purpose. That may mean that my soul came in to embody balance and justice and responsibility to others. So that being my life's work, not necessarily my purpose, but my life's work, I'm garnering all the energy that I have in my other areas to really focus in on how am I going to make sure that this is expressed at its highest potential, at its my highest ability. And I do that by doing a lot of internal shadow work. I do that by teaching. I do that by learning and really diving into all those pieces. Okay. So each gene key has a shadow aspect of it. This is just kind of a lower expression of whatever that is. So I think for, if I remember it correctly, I think that like for gene key 50, the shadow is corruption. So anything that's corrupted, anything that is not in harmony, that is at a lower vibration, and even like your whole expression could be in that it's a block. So then, I just off the top of my head, I know another one that I struggle with that is a shadow for me is inertia. So inertia, just the inability to get going, the inability, like the stagnation of kind of being in that, like kind of being overwhelmed and not knowing where to go. The inertia can hold me back, and then the shadow of corruption, just feeling that you're not, that's like a really big like self-worth issue of like that's really hitting on that personal power piece of I'm not good enough to blank whatever the thing is. And so you think that you're corrupted and that you're unfixable or unable to heal from wherever you're at. Now, once you get over that shadow, you step into that gift. So that next piece comes into play. And, that could be harmony. We were looking at some, it could be artfulness, it could be synergy, inquiry, imagination, even anticipation, I think, is another good gift. So we're working on 3 steps here. So once you're at your gift, then you're at a higher level of expression of that genetic key. And, the goal is to get to that city. And city is SIDDHI. And that's just the highest level of expression of that key. So the gift is you're taking that shadow and you're transmuting it into something that's a gift. And this reminds me of Chiron, and maybe I'll even do a whole episode on Chiron, the wounded healer. I think maybe doing some like Greek and Roman myth and really breaking those down might be a fun exercise, and maybe a little bit fun for you guys of what kind of content I'm creating here. But we want to take that thing that's blocking you, we want to transmute it into something that is a gift. So, with Chiron, the wounded healer, he got injured and then used that injury to become the teacher. He was like healing people because he knew how that felt. Not that I'm asking you to go out and hurt yourself, but chances are you have some sort of pain point within your body, within your life that is blocking you from achieving the things that you want to achieve. I have them too. I'm not like immune to this at all. So once you identify what that is and you can alchemize it or change it or transmute it into something that's a gift, then the next step is moving it into that city, which is a divine essence expression that you are showing when you are radiating that. You're embodying that whole expression of whatever that is. So you're working your way up from this to this higher point, which if you're here, chances are you want to be that highest expression. I think with purpose, a lot of us are expecting to do something that is big. And it's not necessarily doing something that is big that is going to be satisfying. As we're evolving, as we're becoming more of our purpose, it's more about just being that. You don't have to think about whether or not you're living your purpose. You're being your purpose. You're there healthily expressing that piece of you and being something more than, the things that were shadows for you, being more than overcoming that and being a higher expression, a higher essence, a higher embodiment of, and it's being, not doing, it's being. Famous thing in the Bible is, it's not your works, it's not the things that you do that make you healed. It's being healed. It's being that and resonating that. So when I talk about radiance and how important that radiance is, that's that embodiment expression of being in this higher essence of yourself. Okay? So the next piece, and I'm not going to do a long one today. I feel like I've done long ones, but the next piece that I want to talk about is living your purpose. So this is a huge reflective period here, okay? Here are some questions that you might ask yourself to reflect on your purpose, your identity, your evolution or your growth stages. One of the questions that you can ask is, where am I resisting my body's wisdom? Okay, so as you're looking at your gene key profile and you're reflecting on what it is, really looking at inertia. How am I living in inertia and not learning from the wisdom of that shadow expression of myself? What feels like sacred work, even if it's unseen sacred work? You know, I do a lot of my own shadow work on my own, one because it's really uncomfortable and I have to dive really deeply into some terrible areas of myself, in doing the teaching last week, even though I'm like doing it out loud and I'm expressing out loud this big father wound that I have, and many of us have them. It's not just me, but in my personal experience as I'm doing this work, it is sacred work, and I know that it's not being seen by everybody, but it also is just on an energy level. So when you do this shadow work, when you start looking at really diving into what is your purpose here, like one of the things that I talked about last week, I did an Instagram live, and it really is mind blowing to me that when I was a kid in the 90s, people, like, the news was always saying, like, we want peace in the Middle East, we want peace on earth, and like all the, I mean, what are they called? All the beauty school competitions, like all the canned answers is, we want peace on earth, we want peace, like world peace, world peace. And so last week I'm like, I don't know why, it just pops into my head that I'm thinking about this. And I'm like, okay, like I remember everyone was like, we want world peace. Well, the one way that I can think of that's the most tangible way to achieve world peace is actually having inner peace with yourself. That's where you start. And then once you do that, you start resonating that inner peace with others. So when I say that this sacred work that you're doing within yourself is unseen, it's not necessarily seen like with our naked eye. It's 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 felt in a resonance. It's seen in a resonance. So it expresses itself. Once you have inner peace, then other people will resonate with that and they're like, "Oh, okay, inner peace." And one thing I learned early on a few years ago was the more people that I could openly speak freely with about these concepts that I'm talking about, because a lot of us don't want to be pointed at and told like you're crazy or you're schizophrenic. I think that there's this really huge wound there, from the 20th century, of all this DS, is it DSM, whatever the medical terminology is, but we have all of this like really deep medical wounding from the 20th century that we're carrying into the 21st century. And then this idea that you're schizophrenic or you're narcissistic or you're crazy or you're insane, a lot of people don't dive into this and don't speak freely about it, even though they're thinking it, because of these stigmas that have been put on openly thinking in the way that I'm expressing right now. So when we do that work, though, and we have that inner peace, then other people see that and they're inspired by it. And then they're like, I want that inner peace as well. I got to do the shadow work. And it becomes easier and easier and easier. And then pretty soon it's spreading around. So that idea of world peace isn't dropping bombs on a country or isn't like taking out a nation's leader. It's looking inward at the people, especially here in America, the people that are cleaning that inner life up and becoming the inner peace, becoming the essence of peace and harmony and that highest expression of beauty, like embodying it. So that is kind of a big thing that I was thinking about last week. These are the musings of my mind. The next thing I want to talk about is how, like, a full lunar cycle of you really looking deeply at something. So, me as a reflector, I have, it's not I have to, it's, it's suggested that if I'm making any major decisions, I wait 28 days, which is a full lunar cycle. So, the things, not that I don't make decisions day to day, but if it's a big decision, I'm like pulling back and really looking at it from a bigger perspective. So if I'm dating somebody, like I want to take a little bit of time to like fully grasp how I feel about the situation. Is it right? Is this something that is going to be long term? How do I feel about it? Really diving deep into that. So you can also do that with your purpose. Like so for me, my purpose is doing a lot of soul healing here. My my role is soul healing. It's a soul led request that, like, as I've done all this deep meditative work, I'm looking at, okay, how do I help heal the souls? And part of it is having this podcast, being able to speak about these concepts that I think about that are coming into me, that are being downloaded, and sharing it with you. So, it took me maybe a couple cycles for me to really see it. And periodically I'll return to it and just look at it again and like, okay, how am I with it now? How am I living that purpose? Is it important to me? Am I in that path? Am I doing a good job? What can I do better? What do I need to work on? So really diving deep into that. So you want to breathe through that. So as you're reflecting on that purpose, meditating obviously is important. Contemplating is important. And then the somatic expression. So moving that throughout your body. We want oxygen to move through our body. We need water. But the breathing is the most important because that's going to help your body rest and really digest the information. So, just like food, we also digest information when we're speaking, we're sharing that information with others. And so the somatics are very important. And then I also really like frequency healing. So sound healing is something that speaks to me, that I deeply resonate with because it is sharing that frequency. I can feel it in my body, and I can feel like where I might be out of alignment, and that will give me a little bit more information. So doing these practices to help reflect on what that purpose is, like really bringing it to the body, having a breath, being calm, being rested, really activating your vagus nerve, which it affects all parts of your body. You want your body operating at its full optimum, so somatics is very, very important. So breathing is super important. Okay. All right. We're at 46 minutes. Um, so I'm just going to wrap up and just continue with your purpose is like anything else, it's not a destination. This is your life adventure. This is something that is going to light you up. It's going to help you grow. It's going to raise your frequency. Your vibration is going to be raised higher. And life is a series of ups and downs. Like that's just how it is. Like our lives are a series of ups and downs, and some of us have a little bit more rocky roller coasters than others. But I do want to illustrate that it's not a destination. This is a full embodiment of who you are. Okay. If you want to look at what your Gene Key profile is, you're welcome to go onto the Gene Key website, and I will put it in the description below. And if you're open to sharing, what your Gene Key purpose is, what your life's work is, or maybe even you read about your Gene Key, or maybe you want more information about it, pop your Gene Key. Just say, my purpose Gene Key is gate 24. And then can you give me a little bit more information? And I have the book on all the Gene Keys and some of the discussions that have been had with it, and I can just mention it down below. If you want a full profile read, I'm happy to do that. Just reach out to me. You can even say profile in the comments section, and I will reach out to you and we'll get that figured out. We can do a Zoom call. I just need to have a little bit of time to review what your Gene Key is or Gene Key profile is. And I also like to look at the human design profile to help give you a little bit of here's how you should approach things. You wait for an initiation. You initiate. You wait 28 days if you're a reflector like me. And that's not necessarily all the time, but yeah, this is one of the best ways that I've used to really hone in on my purpose and to be okay in embodying this expression. Like the things that I'm talking about are things that need to be said because they're messages I can't just sit with this information and not share it. I have to share it. It's part of my expression. It's part of my role here, and my embodiment and my essence is to make sure that I'm sharing that with you guys. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. I know it's a little bit short, and that's okay. I did a really long one. It was like 2 hours a few weeks ago, and my throat was so dry afterwards. I was like, oh my gosh, I just talked forever. But yeah, pop your information in the comments. If you're here and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the content, or you're kind of tickled by it, give me a like. I would appreciate that. It helps the algorithm. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful day. Follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, TikTok. I am also on Substack, and just pumping information out there for everybody to be digesting. And I appreciate you for watching. The payment of attention is also a valuable payment. So I appreciate that for you, and I love your feedback. So pop some comments in, and I will see you guys later. Every 11 o'clock Pacific time is usually when I go live, and I am going to be putting some guests on, so I will put those schedules when I get those guests booked. But have a great rest of your week, and embody who you are. I love you. You're loved. Bye.